Imagine walking into a restaurant in Mexico City. The music is playing, the smell of sizzling food is in the air, and you confidently order exactly what you want to order in Spanish. How good would that feel? Stick around because after today's episode, you'll know exactly how to order food and drinks in Spanish.
Welcome to Spanglish Friends, the podcast for true beginner Spanish learners.
Hola amigos, I'm Val, your co-host and experienced Spanish teacher from Venezuela.
And I'm Em, your Australian co-host who's been learning Spanish for 10 years.
Our goal is simple, to get you confident listening and speaking in beginner Spanish with content you'll actually use in real-life conversations.
Join the Spanish Friends community by subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts and following us on social media at Spanglish_friends. Let's get started.
Comencemos.
Muy buenos días, amigos. Bienvenidos de nuevo. Welcome back.
Welcome back, Spanglish friends. Hoy en nuestro episodio 24, today in our episode 24, vamos a aprender cómo pedir comida en un restaurante. We are going to learn how to order food in a restaurant using una, unos, and unas for words, which means a, something, or a few of something, so you can master your food and drinks ordering.
Exactamente. Whether you're at a restaurant, a bar, or a cafe, at the end of today's episode, you'll be able to answer these three key questions confidently. Pregunta número uno. How to use the articles un and una, which mean a, and unos and unas, which means some, when ordering food or drinks. Pregunta número dos. How to order a meal or a drink in Spanish. What are two key phrases you can start using as a beginner? We're going to show you one informal and one formal way. And pregunta número tres. What are the top key questions you may hear asked of you in the moment you order your food at a restaurant or a cafe?
Before we dive into answering those questions, let's first listen to our conversación pequeña, our mini conversation.
Yes, that's how we bring all the new concepts we're going to learn to life every week. So, setting the scenes for today's conversación pequeña, vamos a imaginar. We're going to imagine that I'm at a restaurant in Chile and I'm ordering my food, and Val, our camarera, is our waitress.
This first time through, Spanglish friends, just listen, amigos, okay? See if you can catch some few familiar words, and then we are going to break it all down and explain this to you before we replay it. Amiga Emi, ¿lista?
Sí. Comencemos.
Buenos días. ¿Qué desea pedir?
Buenos días. ¿Me da un completo y una bebida, por favor?
Un completo y una bebida. Perfecto. ¿Algo más?
Quizás unas servilletas.
Claro, aquí tiene.
Ay, gracias.
Can you believe it, Spanglish friends? In just a few minutes, in unos pocos minutos, you'll be able to understand that whole conversation. Let's start the clock and dive into the vocabulary you need to know now.
Woohoo! Let's do it with pregunta número uno. How to use the articles un, una, and unos, unas when ordering food. Why do we need to know them?
The answer is it all depends on the gender and the amount of things you are going to order. If you have listened to our episode 7, Spanglish friends, you know that every object, including any food or drink in Spanish, has a gender. And depending on that gender is how you are going to add the article un or una to just order a thing. Un and una both mean a in English.
That's right. So just refreshing our knowledge of the genders quickly. If a word ends in the letter O, normally it is a masculine word. So for example, if you want to order a meal that ends in O, like a completo, which is a famous Chilean dish. It's like a Chilean hot dog. So if I wanted to order that, I know that completo is a masculine word. It ends in O. Or for example, if I wanted to order a taco, a lovely Mexican taco, that ends in O. That is a masculine word. So I'd have to say un taco or un completo because they're both masculine words. To say I would like a taco, un taco, or un completo, a completo.
Exactly. Exactamente, Annie. And if the food or beverage ends in a, normally it will be a feminine word. It needs to be ordered with the article una. For example, bebida, a soda, ends in a. It means that it's a feminine word. So I have to say una bebida. Another example could be pizza, okay? Would be una pizza because pizza, the word, ends in a. So it means that it's feminine. Another example could be hamburguesa, which means hamburger. I would need to say una hamburguesa as these words ends in a.
Great. So now we know how to order food and drinks, both masculine and feminine things like un taco or una hamburguesa. But Val, what if you want to order more than one thing, like some hot dogs or some pizzas, right? Plural of that thing. Friends, you would need to use the plural forms, which are unos or unas. Unos is the masculine form. You just add an os to the un that we already learnt, right? It means some. So for example, I wanted to order some Chilean hot dogs, some completos. I would say unos completos. And it's just like English where we need to also add an S at the end of the food or drink we're talking about, right? In English, we don't just say, can I please order some hot dog, right? That doesn't make sense. It's the exact same thing in Spanish. So we can't say unos completo. We need to say unos completos and pop an S at the end of the thing that we're ordering. So in this instance, unos completos, some Chilean hot dogs. What a cultural experience of things to order. This is definitely making me hungry for completos. I need to make some soon.
With feminine words, to order some things, like some sodas, for example, as we've mentioned before, I would need to change it into bebidas. We would have to use unas bebidas and adding that S at the end of una to make the plural form, and also adding an S to the end of bebida to make the plural form of our sodas. So I could say unas bebidas, por favor. Some drinks, please.
That's right. Or you could say the famous Spanish expression, which everyone seems to know, unas cervezas, por favor. Some beers, please.
Exactly. In summary, before we move on, Spanglish friends, we use un and una when talking about only one item of food or drinks. And unos and unas, we are going to use it when talking about ordering some items of food or drinks.
Now, on to nuestra pregunta número dos, on to our second question of the day. How do you order a meal or a drink in Spanish? What are two key phrases that you can use as a beginner?
Emmy, there are actually many ways you can order food in Spanish. Pedir comida en español, just like in English. But today, we want to teach you, Spanglish friends, to use super common ways you might use. The most common way is you can either say me da plus the food you are ordering, or me gustaría pedir plus the food you are ordering.
That's right. So when you say the phrase me da, you are literally saying give me, or a sense of can you give me this food, right? It's an informal version. But when you say me gustaría pedir, it's like saying I would like to order plus the food you want, right? Both are fine. It's just choosing the level of politeness you'd like to exercise with each of those phrases.
Amigos, and it's very important, you say por favor, okay? Which means please. Let me give you an example. You can say, me da un taco, por favor. Literally translated would be, can you give me a taco, please? But in an English context, it's less direct. It would be translated to something like, can I order a taco, please? Always use por favor in the end. See? Spanish speakers will thank you for that.
Yes, manners never go out of style. So you can say, me da un taco, por favor. Can I please have a taco? Let's practice some other sentences ordering food. So, for example, if I wanted to say, can I order a drink, please? You could say, me da una bebida, por favor. A bebida is a drink, just any kind of drink. So that's a useful word.
Maravilloso. Entonces, amigos, en resumen, in summary, we have two ways to order food and drinks in Spanish. You can use the sentence me da plus the thing, like me da unas cervezas, which is more informal, and you can also say me gustaría pedir plus the food, the thing you want. For example, me gustaría pedir una pizza, which is more formal.
This brings us to our final question, pregunta número 3. What are the main questions you may hear back from a waiter or a cafe staff the moment you order your food or your drink? What do you need to listen out for?
Exactamente. And here, amigos, again, there are multiple ways that a waiter, un camarero, or una camarera might ask you about what you would like to order. But we want, again, to give you some common ones you might hear.
That's right. So one of the main ways they might ask you what you want to order is ¿qué desea pedir? ¿Qué desea pedir? This literally means, if we translate it word for word, what do you wish to order? But we know in English this translates to what would you like to order? ¿Qué desea pedir?
Another way they might ask you what would you like to order includes ¿qué va a pedir? ¿Qué va a pedir? This translated means what are you going to order?
That's right. So in summary, we're teaching you two main ways that a waiter or waitress may ask for our order. So we've got ¿qué desea pedir? Or ¿qué va a pedir? The key thing we can teach you is listen out for the word pedir. Pedir in Spanish is the verb to order, pedir. It's an IR verb, pedir. The dead giveaway, a waiter or waitress is asking you what kind of food or drink you want to order.
Amazing, Spanglish friends. You now have all the vocabulary and tools needed to listen again to our conversación pequeña.
CCC. And this time around, when we play at Spanglish Friends, listen closely for these new expressions we've taught you to both order food and the questions you may get asked when you are ordering food. Ready to play it again, Profe Val?
Sí, Emi, sí, estoy lista. Comencemos. Buenos días. ¿Qué desea pedir?
Buenos días. ¿Me da un completo y una bebida, por favor?
Un completo y una bebida. Perfecto. ¿Algo más?
Quizás unas servilletas.
Claro, aquí tiene.
Ay, gracias. How did you go this time around, friends? Did you start to pick up some of the new expressions that we've taught you?
Let's break it all down. First thing I asked as a waiter, as la camarera, was ¿qué desea pedir? Which means, what would you like to order? ¿Qué desea pedir?
And I first responded with me da un completo y una bebida, por favor. Breaking this sentence down, the first phrase I used was the one we taught you, me da, which is can I order this thing, plus the food and drink I wanted to order. So I said, me da un completo. Remember, un completo was a Chilean hot dog? And I also said, una bebida. Una bebida. I asked for a drink. And I also used the polite way to end a phrase ordering any food and drink in Spanish, which is por favor, please. So I said, me da un completo y una bebida, using the correct article for the genders of both those objects, por favor.
Very good, Emmy, and very polite. And I responded, okay, un completo y una bebida, like I was taking note of it as a waiter, como una camarera. And then I asked her, algo más? Algo más means something else. Algo means something, and más means more. But in this sense, we could say anything else, algo más.
To which I responded, quizás unas servilletas. Let's break this sentence down. I said quizás, which means maybe, servilletas. Servilletas are like serviettes, napkins, right? So obviously I didn't want to make a mess. I wanted something to clean up as well, because completos can be challenging to eat. Sometimes the avocado and stuff is going everywhere. So I said, some serviettes, some napkins for the food, please.
This is true. Very true. Then finally I said, claro, like, of course. And I finished saying, aquí tiene. Here they are. Claro, aquí tiene.
And I was very thankful for the napkins at the end because they're so messy. So I finished the conversation with gracias, thank you, camarera Val.
Excelente. You've understood a whole conversation ordering food and drinks in basic Spanish. That's a great progress, Spanglish friends. Sí.
Yay! And now to wrap things up, here are your 3 big takeaways from today's episode that we want you to remember.
Exactamente. So, número 1, the article un, una, unos, and unas are going to be used when you order a meal or a drink in Spanish. They must go before a thing and match the gender and the number of your meal. For example, taco would be un taco, a taco. The word pizza would be una pizza, a pizza. Unos tacos, if we want to say some tacos. And unas pizzas, if you want to say some pizzas. Número 2. To order your food or a drink at a restaurant, bar, or café, you can say me da plus the meal or drink. For example, me da una bebida. And you can also say me gustaría pedir plus the meal or drink. For example, me gustaría pedir una pizza, which means I would like to order a pizza. And last one, número 3. There are 2 common questions you may hear from a waiter when you order, which include ¿qué desea pedir? And ¿qué va a pedir? If you hear the word pedir, it means to order. They are asking you in whatever format that you would like to order. So, in summary, you can hear ¿qué desea pedir? Or ¿qué va a pedir?
Woohoo! And Spanglish friends, we will post a summary of today's learnings all about food and drink and ordering phrases on our Instagram, so you can save this and study this at your leisure when suits you.
And now, this is one of my favorite parts of the whole episode, our amazing shout out of the week. And this week's shout out goes to Kiena, who commented in episode 19 about the seasons of the year. She commented on YouTube saying, Mi estación favorita es el otoño porque mi cumpleaños es en noviembre. My favorite season is fall because my birthday is in November. That's awesome, Kiena. Love your sentence. Thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias por participar.
10 out of 10. Well done, and thanks for getting involved, Kiena. Now, on to today's reto of the day, our challenge of the day. Imagine, Spanglish friends, that you're at a cafe and you want to order something. How would you do this in Spanish? Let's start practicing for a future conversation that you'll have in a Spanish-speaking cafe from now. Okay, for example, you could say, Me da 2 cervezas, por favor. I would like to order 2 beers, please. Pop your answers in the comments and you might be included in a future episode shout out.
Me encanta este reto. Love this challenge, Em. And amigos, we look forward to reading your answers. And spoiler alert for next week's episode. En nuestro episodio número 25, our 25th episode, we'll be diving into some more food, restaurant, and cafe vocabulary, working even more in mastering your ordering food, learn how to say more foods in Spanish, plus essential phrases you need to know, such as, for example, buen provecho, which is the Spanish bon appetit. Okay, amigos, que tengan una semana maravillosa. Have a wonderful week, Spanglish friends.
Ciao, ciao, Spanglish friends.
Thank you for listening to Spanglish Friends. We are both so proud of the time you're investing to level up your Spanish listening and speaking skills.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, follow us and give the show a rating wherever you listen to podcasts. Or even better, tell a friend about the show. It's how we can help even more people on their Spanish learning journeys and continue to grow our awesome, supportive community.
Don't forget to check out our socials, including Instagram and TikTok at Spanglish_friends for even more beginner Spanish fun.
Congratulations on taking another step today towards your Spanish learning goals. Ciao, Spanglish amigos. Until next time.
Hasta la próxima, amigos.